Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here to talk about something I love, and that's the great state of Wisconsin, my home state. The people of Wisconsin really love their state, and I just want to add a couple things to the great summary that Austin did. In addition to collective bargaining, the Graduate Student Employees Union, the TAA, the people who grade the papers and teach a bunch of students, right? Their union will no longer even be recognized by the state of Wisconsin. Yeah, and also the UW Hospital Nurses Union would no longer be recognized by the state of Wisconsin. And Walker thought that he could break off the firefighters and the police union by exempting them from this bill, right? And the great thing about the firefighters was they came out and said, no way, we're not going to be broken off. We're going to stand with all the other workers and the students and the people of color. So my job here today is to give you a little bit of the who, what, when, where of what happened, because it's a lot of stuff happened, and I'm just going to go over the highlights. But there are a couple things to keep in mind while I do this. So starting in the summer, there was this message that Wisconsin's in crisis and we're facing a severe budget deficit. And so people were hearing that. But one of the kind of nice things that happened was Ben Mansky here decided to run for state assembly with the Green Party in Madison, Wisconsin. And so, as most politicians do, you know, you meet with editorial boards and union leaders and high school students, and, you know, they asked him, why should we endorse you? Because we're facing a big budget deficit. How are you going to get all these progressive things accomplished? And Ben would tell them, look, we need to tax the rich. We need to raise taxes on the highest tax income in the highest tax bracket, right? And so they had been hearing this message since the summer. And we put out radio ads and television commercials and flyers, and we had hundreds of volunteers going door to door. And people, the first thing they asked us, we have a budget deficit, what should we do? And we're like, we should tax the rich. And the funny thing is, you know, as a third-party candidate, Ben got more votes than any other third-party candidate in the state of Wisconsin since the 1940s. And the wealthiest parts of Ben's district actually voted for his policy of taxing the rich. So people had been hearing this, so they were prepared, right, for this message from Governor Walker that we were facing a big budget deficit. Okay. Students, in addition to what they do every year, were also organizing at UW-Madison and Milwaukee to fight the impending tuition increase that they knew was coming, and also the increasing privatization that's been happening over the past 15 years. And so the students had been organizing a Valentine's Day protest. And they knew that Governor Walker was going to try to, you know, cut funding for the university. They didn't quite realize it was going to be this much. But this protest for Valentine's Day had been planned weeks before. And so Valentine's Day was on the 14th of February. And that Friday before, the governor came out and told the public about his plan to cut collective bargaining. And of course, the entire state just took one giant, like, you're going to do what? So a protest, he also put the National Guard on notice, by the way. So I think he knew he had some idea that people wouldn't take us sitting down. Anyway, so a rally of UW-Madison students, it was supposed to be, you know, a couple hundred, turned out to be a couple thousand that Monday. And people went to the governor's office with valentines that said, you know, Governor Walker, don't break my heart, don't cut the university, don't privatize it. And dumped all these valentines right in front of his office, thousands of them. The next day, thousands of unionists and students and, you know, all the people of Wisconsin who had been organizing around progressive issues showed up at the state capitol and packed it. It was wall to wall, and our Capitol building is pretty It's huge on the inside, and so you can imagine how many people were in there. The way the occupation started was that the Democrats had been holding public hearings, and hundreds of people signed up to testify against this bill, and the hearing that would normally end after a couple hours just kept going and going and going, and I think it went on for 85 hours straight. And so it went all night long, and people just never left. And then people said, hey, we need some food and we should go get our sleeping bag. And so they decided to occupy the state capitol. And that's kind of how the occupation started and then lasted for weeks after that. In addition, that day, on that Tuesday, the Green Bay Packers came out. Several of the players came out in support, and Tammy Baldwin came out in support. And we start hearing these rumors about how people are doing rallies around the country in support of Wisconsin. So the hearings continue all night, and then Wednesday, the public school teachers do a sick out. They decide, no class, and they all show up at the state capitol. And so people hear, okay, that the hearings are going to end, and that Thursday, the 17th, the state Senate is going to vote on this bill, and because the Republicans were in the majority, we figured, okay, it's going to pass. So the Capitol is packed with people, wall to wall, and people start hearing that the Democratic senators aren't going to go to the floor. They're going to deny quorum, and so people start packing in front of the doors of all the senators, and I was in front of Chris Larson's door. And, the police would try to come down the stairs and people were like, no, and everybody was really ready to get arrested to try to stop the senators from being compelled to go to the floor, right? And that was the day that they all left and went to Illinois, and it felt like a great big victory that these senators looked out the window, and they're not all great Democrats. Like, some are really good, but some are kind of corporate Democrats, right? But they all looked out the window and said, wow, we have to stand with the people of Wisconsin. There are thousands of people out here. We can't do this. So they did something pretty radical. And I count that as a victory for the people of the state of Wisconsin. They actually did that. Also, something that was really exciting that happened on Thursday was the police union decided to show up and bring snacks and water for the crowd. We're like, we knew the firefighters were with us, but then when the police union is with us too, then we start seeing these signs that say cops for labor. Yeah. And we're like, really? The police are in here too? Wow, we really are gonna win, right? So that was great. Jesse Jackson, also on Thursday, another teacher sick out, right? There's no public school again on Thursday. And then on Friday, another teacher sick out, right? So 3 days in a row, the public school teachers called in sick and showed up at the Capitol instead. So that was pretty exciting. So Jesse Jackson arrives on Friday. There are student walkouts all over, high school, UW, all over the state. In addition to what's happening in Madison, as Austin mentioned, there's little mini direct action stuff happening all over the state of Wisconsin. And if you've never been to Wisconsin, it's a fairly rural state. Like, many cities are a couple hundred to maybe a few thousand people. So Saturday, huge rally, 50 to 80,000 people show up in the state, right on the Capitol. The Tea Party decides they're going to have a counter rally, and they come out and they have this very sad little 2,000 person rally that they had to bus people in for, right? And so, that was also encouraging, because you look around and you realize there isn't a lot of homegrown support for this cuts to public services. Okay, so Sunday, the police decide, we hear rumors that they're gonna arrest everybody in the state capitol. Things happen. The police come in at 2 in the morning and they tear everybody's posters down, but that doesn't happen. Okay. So people are energized. On that Monday, the South Central Federation of Labor, our kind of umbrella group for all the labor unions, calls for a general strike. And not only a general strike in Madison, but in the entire country. Calls on all labor unions to go on strike, both public and private. And unprecedented for them to do that. So the Wisconsin Wave wants to move this beyond just a collective bargaining fight and move it towards looking at the people in the state of Wisconsin, our own Chamber of Commerce, or Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, who are really funding this. So we hold a picket of their conference, and we had several thousand unionists show up, which was really fun. I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty, but I want you to know that there have been, obviously rallies of over 100,000. The temporary restraining order was issued. There was legal fights about, how this bill was passed. Obviously, it was done illegally with only 2 hours notice when they're supposed to give 24 hours. And we can get into more of that. But where do we go from now? Okay, the Wisconsin Wave is holding the first of a series of Wisconsin People's Assemblies, where we're going to have all the players come together in a forum like this to talk about what do we want to do now. Maybe we want to have our own budget. Maybe we want to organize something different in the state of Wisconsin so this never happens again, in addition to all the recall efforts that are going on. And I want to leave you with this. This is our slogan. It was in the rotunda, so everybody could see it. It said, "We are Wisconsin, we will win." Thank you.